Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you game 2 in a series between Puma and Slayers MMA. Puma spawning here as the blue Terran player on GSL's Daybreak. Blue Terran over here on the bottom left-hand side of the map. Meanwhile, MMA spawning on the top right-hand side of the map as the red Terran. Red versus blue as this game does get underway. Looking forward to the series and what's going to be happening in this matchup, as Terran versus Terran has become a pretty common mirror match. It seems like a lot of players do play Terran out there. I think the percentages are slightly higher, not by much, but slightly higher for Terran players. So Terran mirror matches are quite common. Now we'll see how these players will open up. It looks like MMA opting to go for a close supply depot, so this SCV will be able to return to work and get more minerals faster. Meanwhile, Puma opening up with the front door supply depot, so we'll see whether or not that has a really large impact in terms of the game, and Puma may be able to finish off a wall off. But the last time I saw Puma play, Puma did not build his... No, he's going for a gas first. Alright, so an unorthodox gas first here. And Puma is going to have his tech slightly ahead, but he is going to be sacrificing a little bit of his economy since he is not going to be able to get that orbital command nearly as quickly as he would like. Puma getting up that getting up that barracks now, and SCV is on the way en route to do a bit of scouting, and MMA is going to know what exactly his opponent is doing. He's going to know the timing, and we'll see how he decides to respond. The walking paths, there are two separate walking paths into each other's base here. The Marine is not going to be trained for quite some time, and all of this SCV needs to do is take a look at the barracks and go, you're a little bit delayed. Even if there was a wall in here by Puma, I'm sure MMA would be able to deduce what exactly is happening. Now MMA deciding to do a completely different style, and then in game 1 going for a gasless expansion. So the gasless expansion coming in as the SCV just came around, saw the gas, and perhaps saw the timing, and that was all he really needed. A factory is being placed down, and SCV now looking around as the Marine is going to be trained. However, this SCV, does slip away, but I do not believe the SCVs, no, it did not spot this factory. So with no factory spotted, that is going to be huge, as now we see a command center being placed down alongside 2 refineries. I like this response by MMA. MMA saw that his opponent was going for fast tech and said, you know what, I don't need to normally build that double racks pressure after a gasless expand, because or 2 additional barracks, because I know that he's not going to be pressuring me with anything anytime soon. So he got his command center, and then quickly after that placed down 2 refineries in order to make sure that he did not fall behind in terms of tech. The problem is that right now we are already going into Hellions, we are already getting a starport, and we are getting up a starport that already has a tech lab attached. We do not, however, have a second gas by Puma, so Puma is not going to have cloaked Banshees if he does try to go for that. There is the tech lab on there. I cannot imagine that he will be trying to go for Ravens, as he doesn't have the gas for that either, so it is going to be uncloaked Banshees. If I had to make any prediction whatsoever, Hellions and Marines are now out on the field. There is that uncloaked Banshee now being trained. We are at 32 over 35. A new supply depot quickly being added in order to make sure to not fall behind in the economic game. There are Marines. There is a bunker up at the top of the ramp as well, and we'll see how all of this will work. We can currently see one SCV looking to do an expand. We can already have an orbital command here by MMA completed, so that is about a good 2-minute advantage, as Puma needs to start on his expansion. Otherwise, the longer the game goes, the worse it's going to be. Hellions now made their way inside the base, and the SCVs, the Marines, are all getting destroyed. Very interesting choice there by Puma to go after the Marines. Let's take a look at the losses. 3 Marines were lost, but in that engagement, I think the real purpose was to take out Marines so that you could try and deal some damage and take down and deal some damage with your Banshees later. The key question is going to be that MMA is already going into a Viking, and this Viking is going to deal a lot of damage. This is not good news at all. The Viking with a fake out of the Codus reactor to make it look like he's going for Banshees, as Puma now backs away. So a little bit of a mind game there. Puma now needs to get a lot of damage with these Marines, and how much damage can he deal? Puma needs to deal a lot of damage with these Banshees. How much damage can he deal? And he has finished off many of the Marines, but out comes a Viking. The Banshee is going to get finished off there. Down it goes. And that was a huge mind game there. MMA getting the Caduceus reactor in order to make it look like he was trying to go for Banshees, instead training up a Viking, and the Viking was able to shoot it out of the sky, and that was a huge advantage. And that was just all, I guess, playing into MMA's plan. He didn't need to lift off and land onto the tech lab, but he did sacrifice a little bit of time in order to make sure that the Banshee felt overconfident. A Viking now in ground mode, looking to deal more damage, and now the Viking in ground mode, the little transformer dealing 12 damage a second. Very effective, especially with that range of 6, almost equal to a Stalker. In terms of, actually I believe higher than a Stalker in terms of damage. If the Viking actually did the full 14 that it did a long time ago, but then again, they balanced that in Terran versus Terran, I think back in the beta. So let's not talk about patches from over a year ago. MMA still with one Viking in the front, opting to jump into the air. And I never really noticed that the actual icon on the Viking, the little portrait, it changes when he's in ground mode versus air mode. So a good thing to note. But we are now going into double Vikings. So double Vikings compared to one Viking now. Marines are in a little bit of a flank position. The Vikings are trying to hold off, make sure that they are not revealing themselves. But I believe, just outside of sight range in the air here, and we'll see what's going to happen. The Hellions are now trying to test the waters on the far side, but there are Marines up on the ramp. MMA is slightly behind in terms of food. 42 SCVs now compared to 40 though, so they are still dead even in terms of economy, as we'll see whether or not these players will be trying to establish a new command center. MMA getting a jump start in terms of upgrades once more, already going to be finishing 1-1 and getting that armory to be able to start 2-2 in just a few seconds. Medevacs now looking to come in for a drop. The backside is completely empty. This is bad news. All the units now desperately trying to retreat back home. The Medevacs and the Marines are simply now lining up and dropping. The Marines do have stim, as the Medevacs still dropping more and more units in. SCV is trying to come over, and this is not good news. The Vikings are now in the air, and the Vikings are going to push back the Medevacs. The Medevacs, one Viking is now, one Viking left, as the Marines are still battling it out. That last Viking is down as well. The Vikings going after the Medevac. The Medevac needs to keep the Marines alive, and it looks as though the Vikings of Puma could try to land, but no, what's going to happen here? Puma now forced to retreat, but a lot of damage was already dealt. The Viking now perhaps going to go into ground mode, going to finish off that scouting Marine over there. And MMA took the opportunity to expand during that attack. And if that expansion gets up and running, he will transition in very nicely. Puma, though, with a 19 food advantage. We'll see how it's going to convert, as Puma is going to follow this up now with siege tanks. MMA, I guess a little bit on the defensive now, thinking that an attack could be coming in from the back. There is a Viking currently in ground mode here, and it looks as though Puma is going to simply attack through the front door. He is doing exactly that. The Viking now needs to retreat. It is now retreating, but the Viking is slower in ground mode than in air mode. And here we go. The siege tanks may siege. Yes, they are going to siege, preventing any of those units from backing off. MMA does not have siege tech yet. Not quite sure what he's waiting for. He really needs that siege tech, as the siege tanks are now going to start positioning themselves in. And here we go. Here we have an engagement. The siege tanks are backing off. More and more Marines. The siege tank going to get focused down by the Marines, but now they are retreating. MMA with a superior Marine count, as the siege tanks are playing leapfrog. Leapfrog coming in as the three siege tanks are trying to battle it out. The siege tank now gets taken down. A new medevac attempting to push in as well. Siege tank from the very far back needs to get back in here, but the medevacs taking a lot more damage than they should. The Marines unable to get within combat range, as the Vikings are just going to town on Pumas and Medivacs, and here we go once more. The Marines may be able to finish it off, and yes, down to 18 hit points, unable to finish it. You got to remember the targeting location is not directly underneath. It's that you got to see that little line, so those Marines were still out of range here. Still now attacking up onto the high ground. Siege tech not yet done, and this may be the devastating blow coming in. We can now see MMA trying to push out, and now we have a couple of siege tanks battling it out. It looks like more siege tanks will come down as MMA going to lose a lot of units here, but he may be able to break this contain. No, there is still one siege tank. More Marines still funneling in. The Vikings still doing a great job trying to destroy all of those medevacs. And now MMA now being forced to pull back once again. Marines are upgraded 1-0 against the 1 upgraded Marines. Or no, they might be 2-2 upgraded Marines for MMA. So that is why MMA was able to push so far and so hard. But Puma, simply with superior numbers and better positioning, should be able to take the win. Now Marines gonna completely go unchecked inside the production of MMA. MMA trying to rally all of his Marines far away, but it doesn't look like it will work out, as there is the GG. So MMA losing game 2 to Puma here on GSL Daybreak. A very close game, a very good game here from IEM. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned for game 3.